Know how much of the investigatory work you and indeed Computer Weekly have done. Carl Flinders there from Computer Weekly magazine. Now, this week, the American rapper Sean Diddy Combs, his houses in LA and Miami have been raided by police as part of ongoing investigations. Recent lawsuits have accused Combs of sexual misconduct, but the police didn't say what the raids were in relation to. And as if by coincidence, the author and broadcaster Nels Abbey has a book out next week called The Hip Hop MBA, Lessons in Cutthroat Capitalism from Rap Moguls. And he joins me now. Nels, first of all, obviously we can't talk about this Diddy, Sean Diddy Combs case itself because we don't know what the raids are about. But can I just get your initial reaction to how big a story this has been and how coordinated the swoop from the police seems to have been here?
Well, good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me. I think it's a huge story. It's so I've written a book about hip hop's moguls, and Puff Daddy or Diddy has managed to change his name multiple times. Sean Combs is somebody who's pretty much at the center of all that. He was pretty much one of, if not the blue chip rap mogul, and so it's a huge situation. I'll be completely honest with you. I found it rather confusing that the police had a show of force of such magnitude, which included what appeared to be tanks in a coordinated raid on multiple homes or so. And then when it's all finished, they threw his children in handcuffs. But when it's all finished, there was no charges, nothing. It was just, okay, well, off we go. See you later. So it didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. What I fear or feel is that it's theatre, essentially. It's prosecutorial theatre, that they're creating an impression in the public's mind, which might be followed by charges as time goes on. But for right now, it's pretty much just making clear that, hey, this is somebody who is probably beyond the pale from their perspective, and we're going to find we are creating an impression, and we'll find the charges afterwards.
So in terms of just, stacking voir dire, it doesn't matter who's in your pool for jury selection. They've all already seen this on telly. Is that what you think?
Yeah, that's how it tends to be done. So it's the perp walk. The perp walk, for example, where they would actually, it's a very extreme version of the perp walk, in which they would actually walk somebody through walk somebody in handcuffs, or somebody of high esteem or even low esteem. They put them in handcuffs and portray
make
them.
Sure the photographers are there so you can get the pictures of them. Getting huckled.
It's done in the UK too, truth be told. It's not an unusual thing. Sometimes you see, for example, the police will go in somebody's house who might be accused of some sort of historic crime or something, and they leave with bags of evidence or so, which creates an impression, but it doesn't actually lead to any viability in terms of has this person committed a crime or not, but it creates an impression.
Indeed. Now, like you say, you've got a whole chapter of your book that's devoted to P. Diddy. How did he make his millions? Was it just through being a music star, or did he have... I was going to say like half a dozen side hustles, but I don't really mean that, because quite a lot of the businesses that are being set up by some of these really big players, far out, are big conglomerates that employ a lot of people and far outstrip the kind of music revenue itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is a story that started, so rap music itself is often dated to 1973, so it's 51 years old as a concept. But the real big bang as far as business was concerned goes to the late 70s with a group called Sugar Hill Gang, which is about Rapper's Delight, which was a song called Rapper's Delight, which is a fairly big song at the time. It's the first maybe the first rap single, which is arguable, but it was certainly the first hit record. But what these people did is that they took the byproducts of economic pain, of chronic economic pain of over generations, actually over centuries or so, and actually made champagne out of it, quite literally. So they took they couldn't afford music lessons, they couldn't afford all sorts of things, and they just literally improvised, made music out of improvisation, which is pretty fascinating to see. But they took the same attitude towards business. So if you take, for example, Puff Daddy, who you just asked me about, or P. Diddy, who you just asked me about, he made a fair share of money out of music. He started off as an intern. He actually was an intern. He got fired from the company he was initially working with, and then went on to hire the person who fired him not too long afterwards. But what was interesting about him is that he quickly saw that he could make a good fortune out of music. But he could make a good amount of money out of music, get rich out of music. But wealth was found for him, and then the others in diversification, as I call it, clout-driven diversification, that they become popular and famous and accrue some degree of expertise within the music business, but expanding into, say, I don't know, alcohol sales, clothing, electronics is where they became billionaires.
Yeah, so in terms of some of those, the kind of crossover between the consumerism of the people who listen to your music and buy your music and stream your music, and what else that they are consumers of. So, for example, Kanye West doing a tie-up with Adidas for Yeezy's trainers became enormous, or Dr. Dre patenting headphones, and everybody who's anybody around the world having them. And actually, a pair of Dr. Dre's is something that a lot of kids will know about. They probably couldn't name you a Dr. Dre single because, if they're under 20, because he's from a different era in music.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's 100% the case. So it was that element in which they accrued a degree of popularity, a degree of wealth, a degree of expertise, the connections, everything they were taking from the music and just expanded to other things. And you're 100% right. So Dr. Dre's headphones, Beats by Dre, were a fascinating concept because he actually significantly smashed the price of headphones. Previously, an expensive pair of headphones would probably cost about £150. And suddenly Dr. Dre comes along and his standard headphones were costing £360. And people were buying them because they were marketed as cool and because of the fact that he was seen almost as synonymous with the concept of sound as Picasso was with the concept of painting. So that's what, and I think it's a fascinating thing because all of these people all came from dirt poverty. These were not people my dad worked in banking and therefore I work in banking and my son will work in banking. That's not how this went. These are people who are literally coming from absolutely nothing, abject nothing, often getting their startup funding from criminal enterprises, from the drug trade, as many of them actually did, or from people who were incarcerated as a result of being in the drug trade and were literally laundering money, and it all grew on. It all grew from there.
Now, one of the things that kind of strikes me about all of this when we're talking about people, and I'm guessing you would kind of include 50 Cent in that, particularly in terms of the kind of early criminality, is that it's quite a bro code. There's not that many women.
That is true. But if you then go back to, say, the person who really developed the business of rap music, or so, who really took it from being this part where something that would be performed in parties or in parks or in clubs or so, to actually making it a business, the person who did the heavy lifting of business development was a lady called Sylvia Robinson. She was the first rap executive. She was a lady who pretty much had her first big break as a musician herself in the 40s as a teenager, and then stuck with the actual business. So by the time she got to about, I think it was the 40s or 50s, I don't want to get that too wrong, but by the time she was in a group called Sylvia Mickey, she made some really amazing records. If you're into disco, go and listen to a song called Pillow Talk by Sylvia. You can listen to it on Spotify. It's a stunning record that actually foreshadowed to songs like Love to Love You Baby by God, her name evades me right now, and I really let myself down.
Love to love baby. I'm trying to remember it. Yeah, I know the one. Anyway,
by Donna Summer. Yeah, but it foreshadowed
Donna Summer, that's it.
Yeah, but you're getting loads of, so the women both on the business side there was significantly less women, way significantly less women. Then eventually on the actual, but there are some there. But it's nowhere near. It's very, very much a male-dominated industry. What we've seen in the last few years on the performance side of things, or the actual stage side of things, you're seeing an increasing dominance of women in rap music, be it Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, be it Meg Thee Stallion, who are really becoming the blue chip stars of the actual culture, which has never really happened before. But yeah, you are right. It has pretty much been. But also too, for the women who are on the stage, it has often been pretty harsh for them because the men can look as awful as I might look, or as handsome as I might look, but the women always had to be almost like supermodels, and be often overtly sexual. Usually, with the exception,
I was going to say more like cartoon figures, to be honest with you, in terms of like kind of buttock implants and all the rest of it,
Which is a lot to go through, essentially, So the backdrop of misogyny was always there. But at the same time, too, some of the most powerful voices in rap music, the first hip-hop's first literary star is a lady called Sister Soldier, who was one of I probably don't think I'd be speaking to today if it wasn't for her reading her books. And she was a complete intellectual. So the diversity of it, what we often see in the mainstream is just one aspect of rap music, but the diversity of it is vast.
And I mean, this book is a follow-up to your first book, Think Like a White Man, which was a bit satirical about how you get success by thinking white, if you like. In terms of looking around the UK at the moment, people would look at the Prime Minister, the First Ministers of both Scotland and Wales, the Mayor of London. These are all people from black and minority ethnic communities. I mean, is it changing? Is race ceasing to be a barrier to leadership in these kind of ways?
Yes and no. So I wouldn't compare. So I think they're very, very distinct people. Distinct types of politicians. So Sadiq Khan is the mayor of London. London's a very diverse city. Sadiq Khan is somebody who speaks up on racism and holds his head up high, pretty much. Or so. I wouldn't put Sadiq Khan in the same bracket as, say, a Kemi Badenoch or a Suella Braverman. And I wouldn't even put Rishi Sunak in the same bracket as them too. So you take, for example, Rishi Sunak is somebody who is a proud Hindu man. He doesn't really shy away from his race, which is something I always found refreshing about him.
Yeah, particularly in the Treasury when he lit those Diwali lights for the first time. That was really quite a statement. Nice. Yeah.
Ironically, as he lit those Diwali lights the first time, which was really, really nice, I was really, really happy to see that. That did mark a degree of, even if it's just symbolic diversity, but it was a powerful moment. Within 24 hours of him doing that, so Kemi Badenoch was having a huge bust-up about critical race theory and all sorts of other crazy stuff in Parliament, and really almost doing down black people, which has been her source of popularity as far as her brand of politics is concerned. So I think there's many different relationships with race. Some people literally leverage it as a catapult to get them into higher office, and by that I mean that saying what people want to hear, particularly racist people, saying what racist people might want to hear, can catapult you very, very high into high office in Britain. In fact, I'll give you an example. There's only two ways possible that I am aware of for potential prime ministerial popularity amongst ethnic minorities in Britain. One is giving out billions during a pandemic, and so therefore underwriting people's salaries or so and keeping them from losing their homes. And the other is pandering to racism. Pick your poison, Ruth.
Well, I was going to say, you're more cynical than I am, but that might be to your credit. Nels, look, thanks so much for joining us. Nels Abbey there, author of the Hip Hop MBA, Lessons in Cutthroat Capitalism from Rap's Moguls. Now, coming up, Tom Whipple is here with his